Welcome to the bio classes. So here I am your Maria ma'am who will be continuing with the topic anatomy. In the last video, okay, where I ended my video with you. In that video, I was teaching regarding the permanent tissue, that is xylem and phloem I had mentioned. So in this video, I'll be explaining to you regarding the complex permanent tissue, or they are also known as a permanent tissue. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ವಿಡಿಯೋನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಟಿಶ್ಯೂ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. ಸೊ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ಮನೆಂಟ್ ಟಿಶ್ಯೂನ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ, ಯಾವುದು xylem ಅಂಡ್ phloem ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಈ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲೇ ನಾವು ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಅಧ್ಯಯನ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಸೊ ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ದ ವಿಡಿಯೋ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇದು xylem ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ಮನೆಂಟ್ ಟಿಶ್ಯೂ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ತರ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಒಂದು xylem, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು phloem. So what is xylem? So xylem is a water conducting tissue. So as I have said you, the xylem channel will be there from the root system up to the shoot system. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀರು ಗಿಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಸಾಗಾಣಿಕೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬೇರಿನಿಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು ಎಲೆಯ ತುದಿವರೆಗೂ ನೀರು ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಮೂವ್ ಆಗುವಂತ ಚಾನಲ್, ನೀರು ಸಾಗಾಣಿಕೆ ಆಗುವಂತ ಚಾನಲ್ ನ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, xylem ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅದನ್ನ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ವಾಟರ್ ಕಂಡಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಟಿಶ್ಯೂ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಒಂದು ನೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನ್ ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅದೇ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ನೋಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನೇ ನೀಟಾಗಿ ಬರ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ನೀವುಗಳು. ಸೊ what is xylem means, it is a, what is its main function? It functions as a conducting tissue of water and minerals from the root to the stem and leaves. So ಅದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಬೇರಿನಿಂದ ಕಂಡದವರೆಗೂ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಲೆವರೆಗೂ ನೀರು ಸಾಗಾಣಿಕೆ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಕಾರ್ಯನ xylem ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. Then the second point, it also provides mechanical strength to the plant parts. So xylem ಪೈಪ್ ನಿಂತಿರ್ತದ, ಮರಗಳು ಉದ್ದುದ್ದಾಗಿ ನಿಂತಿರ್ತದ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಹದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋ ತರ ಸ್ಕೆಲಿಟನ್ಸ್ ಗಳು ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಆ ಕಾರ್ಯನೂ xylem ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಿಭಾಯಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ the xylem vessels does not has a skeleton as we are having. That work also is updated by that of the xylem tissue. So it also provides mechanical strength to the plant parts. That means it helps the plant part to stand erect. So that means there are certain additional sclerenchymatous tissue which gives the strength to the plant parts to, and also the water column to be erect. Okay. Then what is the third point? So this is the second point what I have revealed. Then coming to the third point, it is composed of 4 kinds of elements. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ 4 ತರದ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳು ಇರ್ತವ. ಒಂದು ಟ್ರಕಿಟ್ಸ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಟ್ರಕಿಯಾ ಅಂತೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ವೆಸಲ್ಸ್. It is also known as trachea or the vessels. Then next one is xylem fibers, then xylem parenchyma. So these are the 4 types of xylem tissues which are present in the xylem water channel. So let us study regarding all these 4. So in this diagram we have tried to show you how is a tracheids. So tracheids, you can see they are the bigger vessels, and tracheids usually it will be present in gymnosperms and also in pteridophyte, whereas tracheas are bigger vessels. They are usually present in the angiosperms. Okay. Yeah. So first component, what is the first component? This is the first component that we have seen. So first component is tracheids. The tracheids, how they are, you can see here, this all are the tracheids. The tracheids, see this one and this one, both are tracheids. They are elongated tube like structures, means they are the dead cells. Why we call them as a dead cells means they are just look like the tracheids are made up of the sclerenchymatous tissue, means that is lignified. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ವಾಲ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಲಿಗ್ನಿನ್ ಡೆಪಾಸಿಷನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಲಿಗ್ನಿನ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಿದೀವಿ, ಸ್ಕ್ಲಿರನ್ ಕೈಮಾ ಟಿಶ್ಯೂ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಿದೀವಿ. ಸೊ So here tracheids are nothing but the sclerenchymatous tissue. Why we call sclerenchymatous tissue means the walls are lignified, means the walls are deposited by the lignin. ಸೊ ಲಿಗ್ನಿನ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ಸಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದ್ದಂಗ ಅದು ವಾಲ್ ನ ಸುತ್ತಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೋಟೋಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಮಾ ಜೀವಂತವಾಗಿರಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಸತ್ತೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಎಂಟಿ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ನ ನಾವು ಲ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಹೆನ್ಸ್ ದ tracheids usually they are dead cells. So ಈಗ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು why they are called as dead cells. They are called as dead cells because the tracheid tubes, they are made up of thickened by the lignified walls. So they are called as a dead tissue and they have a tapering ends. Tapering ends ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ತುದಿಗಳು ಶಾರ್ಪ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಕಾರಣ, ಪಾಯಿಂಟೆಡ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಕಾರಣ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ರಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಯಿಂಟೆಡ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಕಾರಣ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೇನಂತೀವಿ ಟೇಪರಿಂಗ್ ಹೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಲಿಗ್ನಿನ್ ವಾಲ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಸಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಗತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಸುತ್ತಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರೋ ಪ್ರೋಟೋಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಮಾ ಸತ್ತಿರ್ತದೆ. ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೈ ವಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ protoplasma is absent. The inner wall layers of the cell walls have the thickness which vary in the form. ಅಂದ್ರೆ 5 ಥಿಕ್ನಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತವೆ. ಈ ತರ 5 ವೆಸಲ್ಗಳು ಕೂಡಿ ಒಂದು ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಆಗ್ತವ. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಒಂದೊಂದು ವಾಲ್ ಸೆಲ್ ವಾಲ್ ಒಂದೊಂದ್ ತರ ಇರುತ್ತವೆ. Next is the flowering plants. Usually tracheids and vessels are the main water transporting elements. Here you should understand flowering plants means angiosperm. Usually in angiosperm we find the vessels. Vessels another name nan helidini trachea. So trachea and also to an existence tracheids will be present in the flowering plants. Now coming to the vessels, here you can see the vessels will be, what is the difference between tracheids and trachea andre the vessels will be larger, that is the tracheids are narrow, the trachea or the vessels are broad. Okay, this is narrow, this is broad. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಉದ್ದ ಇರ್ತದ, ಇದೇನಾಗಿರ್ತದ ಇದು ಅಗಲ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವುದು vessels. Okay, so the second component of the xylem is vessel. So how is the vessel structure? So this is a vessel structure. So in the vessels you can see it is a long cylindrical tube like structure. It is made up of many cells, each with a lignified wall. So ನಾವು ಯಾವಾಗ lignified walls ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು dead tissue ನೇ. So ಅದು dead tissue ಆದ್ರೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರೋದು empty ಇರ್ತದ. So in this vessels the inside will be empty, since protoplasma will die because the wall will be cemented. So what do we tell the next statement? Protoplasma absent. Okay, what is the first statement? It is a long cylindrical tube-like structure. It is made up of many cells, each with a lignified wall and a large central cavity, means or lumen. We also call it as what? Lumen ಅಂತನೂ ಅದನ್ನ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So protoplasma ಸತ್ತಿರೋ ಕಾರಣ ನಾವೇನಂತೀವಿ protoplasma is absent. Third point, it is the vessel members are interconnected through perforation, ಸಂಧಿಗಳು. So they are interconnected. So here you can see this is a xylem vessels. Yeah, this one is a xylem vessel. So ಇಲ್ಲೇನ್ ಡಾಟ್ ಡಾಟ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಈ ಡಾಟ್ ಡಾಟ್ ಗಳನ್ನೇ ನಾವು ಪರ್ಫೋರೇಷನ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಕಾಣಬಹುದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ರಂಧ್ರಗಳು ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಿ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವೇನಂತೀವಿ ಪರ್ಫೋರೇಷನ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಈ ಪರ್ಫೋರೇಷನ್ ಇಂದ ವೆಸಲ್ಗಳು ಒಂದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತವ. ಸುಮಾರು 5 ಇರ್ತವ. ಇದೇ ರೀತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡ್ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆಗಿ ನೋಡಿ ಈ ತರ 5 will be there which will be adjoined. Okay, there will be 5 and those 5 together it will make one pipe channel. Okay, so that's what we are trying to tell. Vessel members are interconnected through the perforation in their common walls. Okay, that is third point. Now fourth point, the vessels are a characteristic features of angiosperm. ನಾನು ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ, the angiosperm will be having the vessels where the vessels are broad in structure and the more of water will be moved into the vessel, whereas when we see the tracheids it is narrow vessel, the water movement amount when we compare it will be lesser than that of the trachea. ಸೊ ಟ್ರಕಿಯಾ, that is trachea or vessel ಅಂತಾನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. It is present in angiosperm. That is the main difference. So vessels are present in angiosperm, then tracheids are present in gymnosperm and pteridophyte. So what we give the last statement as, the vessels are a characteristic features of angiosperm. That means gymnosperm lack vessels. I mean gymnosperm ಅಲ್ಲಿ vessels ಇಲ್ಲ. Okay, so trachea ಅಥವಾ vessel is present in angiosperm and tracheids are present in gymnosperm and pteridophyte. Okay, next component. So what is the next third component of the xylem? Is xylem fibers. Fibers ಅಂದಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಾರು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಅರ್ಥ. ಸೊ ಈ ನಾರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದ್ ವೇಳೆ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ತರ ವೈಟ್ ಮಾರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಹೀಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಸೆಪ್ಟೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಈ ಮಾರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಎಸೆಪ್ಟೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ದ markings in between to divide it into the number of like filaments chambers, we call it as a septate. If it is not divided, forms a thorough line, we call it as a aseptate. Okay, so here the xylem fibers, they have highly thickened walls and obliterated central lumens. So what do you mean by lumen? ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದೀನಿ, ಎಂಟಿ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಲ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಈ xylem ವಾಲ್ಸ್ ಗಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಈ ಫೈಬರ್ ಗಳು ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ದಿಸ್ ಫೈಬರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ sclerenchymatous fibers. So what are xylem fibers means? The sclerenchymatous fibers attached with that of the xylem vessels, we call it as a xylem fibers. So once again I'll tell you what are xylem fibers means. Sclerenchymatous fibers which are attached to that of the xylem vessels are known as, what they are known as, xylem fibers. So what is the main function of the xylem fibers means? To provide the, what does it do? It provides the mechanical strength to the xylem channel. Next is xylem parenchyma. The parenchyma associated with that of the xylem, we call it as xylem parenchyma. Xylem parenchyma is the only living tissue among the whole components. So ಎಷ್ಟು components ಇದು? 4 components ಇದು. ಒಂದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಟ್ರಕೀಡ್ಸ್, ಎರಡನೇದು ವೆಸಲ್ಸ್, ಮೂರನೇದು xylem ಫೈಬರ್ಸ್, ನಾಲ್ಕನೇದು xylem parenchyma. ಸೊ ಇಷ್ಟು ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ xylem parenchyma ಮಾತ್ರ ಜೀವಂತವಾಗಿ ಇರೋದು. ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್? ಅಮಾಂಗ್ ದ 4 ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ only xylem parenchyma is a living component. Rest of the 3 components are the dead components since they are being lignified. Lignified means they are cemented by the lignin walls, lignin deposition. So they are all a dead tissue. In the center, if there is a cavity, we call that cavity to be as a lumen. So is what is here also I have written 3 points here, as you can see. So what is xylem parenchyma cells means? Here in the purple shade we have shown this is xylem parenchyma. So the definition also we give the same. The xylem parenchyma tissue associated with the xylem, we call it as xylem parenchyma. So here the word is given, they are leaving thin walled cells with the cellulosic cell walls. So they are living and thin walled cells with cellulosic cell walls. They store the food materials. Their main function is to store the food materials and also to monitor the water movement, since the nucleus is a living one. So it is meant in monitoring the movement of the water in the xylem channel. Then second point, they store the food materials. They are meant for the storage such as starch or fat and also sometimes other substances like tannins. Tannin, resin, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಗೋಂದು ಅಂತ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಿ, ಗಮ್, ರೆಸಿನ್, ಮರದಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತದ್ದು. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೇನ್ಲಿ ಮೆಂಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೋರೇಜ್. Then third one, radial conduction of water takes places by the ray parenchymatous cells. So in the bigger trees, okay. So in trees, usually we can see the radial conduction of the water. Radial conduction of the water means if the xylem vessels are arranged or in the radial form. So the water conduction takes places by the ray parenchymatous cells. Okay, so water conduction usually is occurs or controlled by that of the parenchyma cells, but in a tree usually what happens, radial conduction of water takes places by the ray parenchymatous cells. Okay, so here is in the xylem. Again, the xylem is classified into two types, such as protoxylem and metaxylem. Okay, so proto means it is, there are two meaning. One is the first formed primary xylem. Okay, first formed ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ಹುಟ್ಟುವಂತ xylem ನ ಪ್ರೋಟೋಸೈಲಮ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಆ ಪ್ರೋಟೋಸೈಲಮ್ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಬೆಳೆದು ದೊಡ್ಡದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಮೆಟಾಸೈಲಮ್ ಅಂತಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. So the later formed primary xylem, we call it as metaxylem. So here protoxylem will be smaller in structure, ಚಿಕ್ಕದಾಗಿರ್ತದ. Metaxylem will be bigger in structure. So metaxylem ಹೆಸರು ತಕ್ಕಂಗೆ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗಿರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡ್ರಾಯಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸಿರುವಂತದ್ದು. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಸ್ಮಾಲರ್, we call this as to be the protoxylem, whereas this bigger vessels, this are said to be the metaxylem. This is in a dicot stem and this is in a dicot root. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರೂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ xylem ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಮತ್ತು ಸ್ಟೆಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ xylem ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಈ ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್, ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್? ಇನ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೆಮ್ಸ್, protoxylem lies towards the center and the metaxylem lies towards the periphery. This type of primary xylem is called as endarch. So here in the xylem you can see, so this is a protoxylem. So protoxylem, it is facing the center. So this is the center of the stem. So what it is? This is the center of the stem. So if it is the center of the stem, if it is the center of the stem, okay. So here protoxylem is facing the center of the stem, whereas the metaxylem is facing the periphery of the vascular bundle. Okay, so protoxylem is facing the center of the stem, metaxylem is facing towards the outside of the stem. This type of arrangement we call it as end arch. Okay, once again I'll tell you. See, here I'll draw and show you. In this vascular bundle, if protoxylem is facing the center and metaxylem is towards the facing towards the outside the stem or present towards the periphery, we call it as end arch. In the root, it is reverse case. What is reverse case means? In the roots, what happened? Protoxylem lies towards the periphery and metaxylem lies towards the center. So here you can see this bigger vessel where I am showing, this bigger vessel is metaxylem. See here, metaxylem, and this smaller one is protoxylem. So protoxylem is facing towards the periphery and metaxylem is found towards the center. So this type of arrangement we call it as X arch. So here it is a reverse case. If you take a vascular bundle, see like this. So here comes the, if it is facing the center, that is, this is metaxylem and this is a protoxylem. So if the protoxylem is facing outside of the stem and metaxylem is facing inside, that is to the center. If it is facing, we call it as X arch. So the meaning of protoxylem root alli. Okay, root alli protoxylem ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಫೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದ. ಮೆಟಾಸೈಲಮ್ ಒಳಗ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ಚ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಇದ್ರ ಉಲ್ಟಾ ಒಂದ್ ವೇಳೆ ಮೆಟಾಸೈಲಮ್ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಫೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಪ್ರೋಟೋಸೈಲಮ್ ಒಳಗ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಎಂಡ್ ಆರ್ಚ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. The next second component tissue, complex permanent tissue is phloem. So what is phloem? Phloem is meant for food conduction. ಈಗ ನೀರು ಸಾಗಾಣಿಕೆ ಪೈಪ್ ಚಾನಲ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಓದಿದ್ವಿ. ಈಗ ಆಹಾರ ಸಾಗಾಣಿಕೆ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಪೈಪ್ ಚಾನಲ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗೋಣ. So that is phloem. The phloem is also called as a bust. What it is called? ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹೆಸರಿದೆ, ಅದೇ bust. So what is its main function? Here I have written, it transports food materials from the leaves to other parts. That means, so ahara preparation agadi illi elegalali. So idu ulta bartade. If the water moves from the root to the shoot system, the food comes from the shoot to the root system. So this is the xylem and this is of phloem. So this is two different pipe channel. One is what? The xylem moves up the water from the root system up to the shoot system, and whereas the phloem moves the food product from the leaves, that is from the shoot system to the root system. Okay, so it is very clear. The phloem is meant for conduction of food. So here first point I have written, in angiosperm, phloem is composed of sieve tubes elements, that is components of phloem. Phloem li ಏನೇನಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ sieve tube elements, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, okay, then phloem fibers. So ಇದೆಲ್ಲಾನು ಏನಂತೀವಿ, components of the phloem. Then second one, gymnosperms have albuminous cells and the sieve cells. They lack sieve tube and companion cells. So they lack what? Sieve tube and the companion cells. The gymnosperms usual agi sieve tube ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದ್ರ ಬದಲಾಗಿ it will be having sieve cell ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ albuminous cell ಅಂತೀವಿ. Sieve tube cells will be present in angiosperm. So that is the difference between the gymnosperm and difference between the gymnosperm having sieve cell and the angiosperm having the sieve tube. So sieve tube and sieve cell both are different. If sieve tube is present in the angiosperm, sieve cells are present in gymnosperm and pteridophytes. So the phloem has a component. So the first components we will be studying about the sieve tube elements. So how are the sieve tube elements? So ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, this blue structure, this is the sieve tube elements. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣುವಂತ ಬ್ಲೂ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ನ ನಾವು sieve tube elements ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So they are long tube like structures arranged longitudinally and are associated with the companion cells. How they are associated with that of the companion? Why they have to be associated with the companion cells means, so see this pink color, whatever is shown here, this is the companion cell. ಈ pink color na companion cell ಅಂತೀವಿ. So here as I said you, sieve tube are a enucleated cell, means there is no nucleus. So that function will be uptaken by that of a companions, means a friend cell. So this companion cell, which is a living cell, each will monitor the conduction of the food in the sieve tube. So hence we said the sieve tube is enucleated cell. Then second point, the end walls are perforated to form the sieve plates. So here you can see this is the sieve plates. Perforation andre ರಂಧ್ರಗಳು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೇನೆ. So through this sieve plates, the sieve plates will be having the sieve pores. Through the sieve pores, the food molecules move from one sieve tube to the another sieve tube. So this how it starts moving. So I have shown in a different direction. Okay. So it starts moving from the shoot system, up to the root system. So it enters here, then comes out to the next sieve tube. So this how the food molecules move from one sieve tube to another sieve tube through the sieve plates. The sieve plates will be having the perforation or the pores. So ಆಹಾರ ಹೇಗೆ ಸಾಗಾಣಿಕೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಸಿವ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಇಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸಿವ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಹೋಗೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ರಂಧ್ರಗಳಿರ್ತಾವ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಸಿವ್ ಪೋರ್. ಈ ರಂಧ್ರಗಳು ಒಳಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಆಹಾರ ಹೀಗೆ ಸಾಗಾಣಿಕೆ ಆಗಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸಿವ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಹೌ ದ ಫುಡ್ ಮೂವ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಒನ್ ಸಿವ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಟು another sieve tube. Then a mature sieve element has a peripheral cytoplasma and a large vacuole but lacks nucleus. So when it lacks nucleus, we call it as a enucleated cell. So which is the enucleated cell? Sieve tube cells are the enucleated cell. It will be having the cytoplasma and a large vacuole, but it will not be having the ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಸಿವ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ನ ನಾವು ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯೇಟೆಡ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಸೈಟೋಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಮಾ ಇರುತ್ತ ಮತ್ತು ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಯೂಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Then what's the main function of the sieve tube? The function of the sieve tubes are controlled by that of the nucleus of the companion cell. So ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ. The sieve tube, as it does not have the nucleus, the conduction of the food will be controlled by that of the companion cells which is attached to the sieve tube. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಬಹುದು ಈ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನ. So this sieve companion cell will control the movement of the food molecules from one sieve tube to another sieve tube. So that is a main function of the companion cells. Next, in the sieve tube cells only, we are having the first formed primary phloem and which consists of a narrow sieve tube, and later formed phloem will be having a larger sieve tubes. So this is a types sieve tubes. You can tell. That means what? In the primary xylem, that is newly formed xylem, it will be having narrow sieve tubes, and later formed the metaploem will be having bigger sieve tube. Once again, I'll tell you, the protoploem or primary phloem will be having narrow sieve tube. The metaploem will be having the, or the secondary phloem, it will be having the bigger sieve tubes. The main function of the sieve tube elements are conduction of food materials from the leaves up to the root system. Okay. So this is a picture which is given in your textbook also. So here I'll explain for you. So this is a sieve pore. Here you can see the dot-like structure. These are sieve pores. Then the sieve pores, the blue color indicates the flow of the food product from one sieve plate to the another sieve plate. That is, the food molecules move from one sieve tube to the another sieve tube through the sieve pores. Then associated with the sieve tubes, this is a purple color tissue which is nothing but that of the companion cell. Then associated with that of the companion cell, there are living tissue, that is parenchyma tissue associated with the phloem tissue. We call it as a phloem parenchyma. So here you can see the specialized parenchymatous cells associated with the sieve tube elements. Sieve tube elements and companion cells are connected by the pit fields present between their common longitudinal walls. So what is the companion cell? If there is a question like that, that is nothing but the specialized parenchyma cells. Okay, the specialized parenchyma cells which get associated with that of the sieve tube. We call it as a companion cell. So that means The parenchyma cells is derived from, companion cell is derived from that of the parenchymatous cell. Okay, so that what we call it as, what do we call it as? Companion cell. So the companion cell here you can see, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಬಹುದು companion cell sieve tube ಹೆಂಗ್ connection ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ through the, ಇದನ್ನ ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, what do we call this as a, we call it as pits. Companion cell go ಮತ್ತೆ sieve tube go ಹೇಗ್ connect ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ through the pits it is connected. Okay, that's what here we have written, by the pit fields present between the common longitudinal walls. And the functions of the companion cell. What's the function of the companion cell? Means it maintains the pressure gradient in the sieve tubes. So companion cell helps in the conduction of the food and also maintains the pressure gradient in the sieve tube cells. Okay, so next is phloem parenchyma. This is a fourth component we can tell, that is parenchymatous cells associated with the phloem. As I said you, it is called as phloem parenchyma. Other than the companion cell is derived from the parenchymatous tissue. So this all what we can see, the green color, this all are nothing but the parenchyma cells. So parenchyma cells is a living cells. Rest this sieve tube and the sieve cells, they are the dead tissues. So it is made up of elongated tapering cylindrical cells with a dense cytoplasma and a nucleus. Since it is living, parenchyma ಅನ್ನೋದು ಜೀವಂತವಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ cytoplasma nucleus ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇರುತ್ತೆ. So how is the phloem parenchyma cells? They are elongated with a tapering cylindrical cells which have the dense cytoplasma and the nucleus. Then coming to the second point, the cell wall is composed of cellulose and has a pits through which the plasma desmatal connection exists. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಯಾರೆನ್ಕೈಮಾ ಇಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪ್ಯಾರೆನ್ಕೈಮಾ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ಈ ತರ ಥ್ರೆಡ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಥ್ರೆಡ್ಸ್ ನ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಮೋಡೆಸ್ಮಾಟಲ್ connection. Means the through this pits there will be, say through this pits also there will be what? Plasma desmata will be there, which connects the two parenchymatous cells, which enables to tell they are living cells. So they exist between the two cells. ಎರಡು ಸೆಲ್ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಮಾ ಡೆಸ್ಮಾಟಾ ಅನ್ನೋ ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. So that connection enables it is living cells. Then third point, phloem parenchyma is absent in most of the monocots. Parenchyma cells ಗಳು monocots ಅಂದ್ರೆ grass, wheat, ragi, and so in those plants and all, we don't find the phloem parenchyma. Phloem parenchyma important function is storage of food material. So wherever we find the parenchyma, usually we tell the main function of the parenchyma is storage. So whenever we ask the definition, what is phloem parenchyma? Means the parenchyma cells associated with that of the phloem tissue, we call it as phloem parenchyma. So what is the main function? Means it stores the food material and other substances like resins, latex, mucilage. So resins ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ ಗಮ್ ತರ, ಗಮ್ ಅಂತವು ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೋರ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತದಲ್ಲ, ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ phloem parenchyma. ಲೇಟೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಕೆ ಗಿಡದಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ ಹಾಲು ತರದ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಮಿಲ್ಕಿ ಲೇಟೆಕ್ಸ್. Mucilage means it will be like in aloe vera, would have been seen, no, that is the texture of the mucilage. So this all will be stored by that of the phloem parenchyma cells. Okay, so the last component of the phloem is phloem fibers or bast fibers ಅಂತೀವಿ, ಅಥವಾ ನಾರು ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ನೀವು ತೆಂಗಿನಕಾಯಿ ನಾರು ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಜೂಟ್ ಬ್ಯಾಗ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಆ ನಾರುಗಳು ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಈ ನಾರುಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವೇನಂತೀವಿ? ಫೈಬರ್. So they are all called as bast fibers. The bast fibers is used commercially in the manufacture of bags, might be and the coires are used in the preparation of the mat, mattresses. So all this. So this is commercially used and it is called as a bast fibers. So here the phloem fibers means they are usually made up of sclerenchymatous cells. So another definition also we tell what is phloem fiber means sclerenchymatous tissue associated with that of the phloem. We call it as a phloem fibers or phloem sclerenchyma. Okay, then next one. Generally it is absent in primary phloem. The sclerenchyma bast fibers will be usually absent in the primary phloem, but it will be present in the secondary phloem, that is in the tree form. In the plant form, usually it will be absent. So you can see here the fibers are elongated thread-like structure from with the tapering ends. Tapering ends means pointed ends. Then these are elongated, unbranched, and have a, as I said you, pointed needle-like apex. Apex ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತುದಿನ ನಾವು apex ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. So the pointed ends we call it as a apex. The cell wall is quite thick. Why it is quite thick? Because it is lignified walls. Means it is deposited by the lignin deposition. So we call it since it will be quite thick in structure. Then next one, at maturity, these fibers lose protoplasma and become a dead tissue. So at maturity, what I meant, these fibers will lose the protoplasma and they become dead. Okay. The next point, phloem fibers of the jute, flax, hemp. So this are used commercially. So ನಾನು ಹೀಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ ಕಮರ್ಷಿಯಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ವ್ಯಾಪಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಂಥದ್ದು, ಮನುಷ್ಯರು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಂಥದ್ದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಾಯರ್, ಜೂಟ್, ಅದನ್ನ ಬ್ಯಾಗ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ರಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವ್ಯಾವ ತರ ನಾರುಗಳು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಜೂಟ್, ಫ್ಲಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹೆಂಪ್. Then what is the main function? So now ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗ phloem fibers usually in the phloem tissue will not be having the skeleton to stand erect as we are having the skeleton in our body, but the program will be updated, or what do you tell, the phloem tissue is standing erect means with that of the mechanical support given by that of the sclerenchymatous tissue, that is nothing but the phloem fibers. So the main function of the phloem fiber is mechanical in support and protection to the soft tissue. So this is complete regarding the study of ಎರಡೂನು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. One is xylem and another one is phloem. So ಇವತ್ತು xylem and phloem components ಬಗ್ಗೆ detail ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ. So try to write all the slides in the form of notes, and I have said you very slowly also so that you will write it in the form of a notes. So view the videos many times and understand. Thank you, children. Meet you in the next class.